What is good, guys? Welcome back to the Benefit Podcast, bringing you everything you need to know about living your best life. And the title of this episode is something that, to be honest, I hear this all the time, and it's actually really quite frustrating because there seems to be this narrative in certain parts of to be honest, certain parts of social media, which we all know can be fantastic at times, but it can also be full of complete and utter nonsense. And one of the things that you hear a lot of people talk about is, I'm going to go into a cut, I'm going into a fat loss phase. I know I'm going to get weaker. I know I'm going to lose strength. I know I'm going to lose muscle. All of those things aren't the case. Now, if you go into those things with that mindset, you're probably going to experience them. But if you go into those phases with the same attitude that you would go into a phase of growth, like if you're going into like a phase of dedicated muscle growth, you're going to be focused on trying to progress those lifts every single week possible. You're going to be logging everything down. You're going to be looking back. I lifted this amount of weight for this amount of reps. If it's within the target rep range, then I'm going to up the weight this week. If you're at the lower end of a rep range, I'm going to keep the weight and I'm going to aim to get that extra rep or two. You're focusing constantly on trying to improve. Why on earth, when, especially right at the very start of a fat loss phase, would you just make this assumption that you're going to get weaker? It doesn't make any sense to me. At the very start of a fat loss phase, even if you're taking things relatively aggressively, you've still got a good amount of food. You've still got the same amount of body weight. You've still got a good amount of energy in you. There's absolutely no reason why you should suddenly, the very first session of that fat loss phase, and I see this happen and I see this advised, someone's like, right, we're going into this fat loss phase. I want you to reduce the weight you've lifted by, 10% on every single lift. Why? Honestly, it makes absolutely no sense to me. And it's no wonder people come out of those fat loss phases feeling weak, feeling like they've lost muscle, looking like a bag of potatoes, because they're not maintaining that attitude. Like if you go into that fat loss phase thinking, I'm going to keep pushing, I'm going to keep progressing, like that's how you're going to keep that muscle tissue. You may not build a huge amount of it. Like, let's not forget the main focus within a fat loss phase is fat loss. It's not muscle growth. We want to keep hold of the muscle tissue, but you're not going to be giving your body the stimulus to keep hold of it if you're intentionally reducing weight, if you're intentionally dropping reps. It just doesn't make any sense to do that. So you need to go into those fat loss phases very much with the right attitude. The attitude absolutely has to be, I'm still going to make progress. I'm still going to push. I'm still going to aim to get stronger, add reps, add weight. It may not happen as quickly as it does in a phase of growth. Again, you're in a deficit, you are eating less food, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. I'm by the time this particular episode goes out, I'm going to be like 10 weeks into my photo shoot prep. I've got 4 or 5 weeks left. I'm really pushing quite hard. I'm a good 20 pounds down in body weight. I'm still making little bits of progress in my lifts. Now, I'm not saying that I'm progressing every single lift every single week, but even if within one of those sessions, everything maintains, but one of my movements improves, I'm still making progress. And that's my mindset going in. My mindset going into that session isn't, fuck me, I'm 20 pounds down from where we started this. I'm definitely going to be weaker. So let's just, lighten the load on everything. Let's not push ourselves as hard. That is never, ever going to be my attitude. And that's why my physique looks the way it looks. It's why I'm able to keep my muscle tissue. It's why I can guarantee that the weight coming off is body fat. You can't be doing that if your attitude is all over the place. So I just wanted to really sort of, highlight that point and make a point as well. If you are entering into fat loss phases, you're going into cuts, your aim is to get leaner, make sure you keep your focus on progressing your lift. Make sure that attitude and the mindset is in the right place to push yourself as hard as you can in every single session. The only time, and there's a very, very slight caveat to this, the only time where you may experience some dips if you're pushing really, really, really hard, your body fat levels are really low, your food is low, maybe that phase of dieting has gone on for quite a long period of time, at that stage, you may notice some very slight dips in your strength. Even then, I wouldn't expect them to be massive. Like, I wouldn't expect you to be removing 20-25% off the weight. You know, I wouldn't expect you to go from being able to move a weight for 10 reps and only being able to do it for 1 or 2. You might just notice a very, very small amount of I wouldn't even call it weakness. I just call it a bit more fatigue that's in you. You know, your body's in a depleted position. But that, you know, I'm talking about that being pushed really quite hard. You know, that isn't something that I would expect anyone to experience within the first 8, 10, 12, you know, even as like 16 weeks of fat loss. Like, if your fat loss phase is going over that length of time, you're probably going to be taking it slightly steadier. You just shouldn't be losing strength. You really, really shouldn't. So make sure your mindset is in the right place to begin with. Go into that fat loss phase believing, thinking, and aiming to push and progress. That is how you're going to guarantee that's going to happen. And if you've got any questions on that, if there's anything that you'd like to know, like how can you change your mindset, like what, you know, why do people say these things, or any other questions that you'd like me to cover on this podcast, please do let me know. I'm always happy to help. I will respond to every single person. Drop it in the comments, send me a message on any of my socials at Ben Howard Fitness. You can email me, ben@benhowardfitness.com. Please like, share, subscribe, do all of that good stuff for these to keep reaching as many people as possible, getting the good info out there and trying to debunk some of the nonsense. Have an absolutely amazing weekend. Have an awesome rest of your week, and I'll be back again next week with another episode.